So American Dad, I'm not really a fan of this show, to be 100% with you. However, it has been about 20 years. Ryan Walterson suggested this, and at first I was like, I don't know, but I thought it was a good suggestion, and I want to get into it. Now, this premiered on February 6th, 2005, so it's been about 20 years. Apparently, it's been 20 years of YouTube. Congrats to both of you. So I'm sure there were already American Dad clips on there, and somebody got sued for it. But I want to preface like what this meant in history, because I think, I've heard from like Tariq, Toonrific Tariq, and other people how like specifically I think like my generation is not super into Family Guy presently. We're not really into that, right? Here's the deal with all that. Family Guy ended in 2002. There were some episodes that hadn't aired and all that, and it came out in 2003, but for the most part, we hadn't heard any Seth MacFarlane stuff for 2 years, which sounds insane presently. Like I don't think you can imagine just not having Seth MacFarlane stuff for 2 years, but that's basically what happened, right? Okay, for 2 to 3 years, there's no Seth MacFarlane. We knew Family Guy got picked up again. That would happen later, but American Dad, the first episode, was the first thing of any Seth MacFarlane stuff we had gotten in 2 to 3 years. In addition to that, this was the second term of Bush. I think he was sworn in a little bit before. All the Bush conservative jokes were sort of played out by this point. So, seeing somebody make their big return 2 to 3 years later, doing lame-ass conservative Bush jokes, just didn't feel really that funny at the time. Now, I would be open to talking about the Family Guy return episodes, actually. Maybe those are funnier than I remember. Maybe there was too much hype, and maybe we're all just fucking dicks. But, which is probably part of it. However, I thought this was better than I remembered it being. I thought it was a little funnier, and I thought we were probably too harsh on it. Mostly because I think those first couple seasons of Family Guy are really good. People still reference them. People still like them to this day. They're really great episodes, and I think following them up was difficult. However, whatever with this episode, I think it actually kind of works because of the idea of the son who is it's about a bunch of stuff, and you set up everybody. I still don't like the goldfish thing. I think the goldfish thing is it's basically like, if you don't know American Dad, it's about this dad who works in like the government or CIA or whatever, FBI, NSA, one of them. And he's very conservative, and he has a son who's like a nerd. He has a daughter who's like super liberal. They live with an alien, Roger. They have a goldfish who has the brain of a German skier. Am I remembering everybody? Is that everyone? Anyway, that's the whole lineup. I don't get the goldfish thing. They explained it, and that was actually sort of funny, but it still is like, what are we doing with this? I didn't really get that. Everybody else, however, the goldfish name is Klaus. Sorry, Klaus the goldfish. I didn't really get that one. But Roger the alien and the daughter lady, they have a whole thing. But I think the main thing is about the son and the dad, the American Dad. He wants his son to go on a date with a girl and all these things. That actually kind of works a little better than like... I keep reading this show doesn't rely on cutaways. It still has cutaways, so I don't know. But it was like very much playing in all the extremes of like how people felt about conservatives, and like how he keeps shooting stuff, and like he buys his son a dog to like impress girls, and then he shoots the dog because he's so gun happy, and hearing anything freaks him out, which was like really stupid. That kind of stuff doesn't play as well, but there was a couple jokes that I will bring up that were funny. There's one part where he's gonna steal this girl's purse, and then he wants his son to like catch him and get the purse back. But what seriously worked about that is like the joke is that like we already know this dad's like super like crazy and like his whole thing with guns and stuff, but he grabs the purse and then just like runs like a demon through this mall, and no one can catch up to him, and he like jumps through a window and he like gets away from the purse. And I was like, okay, this is like actually funny. Like I like that it was from a sense of character that like he's like that. And And then they cut to like them in the car. And he goes, "That didn't really work out." And he has like glass on his face. That was legitimately like really well done. Actually, I thought that was like maybe the best joke in the whole episode because it's like he ruined the whole premise and he came up with it. I thought was really funny actually. But there's a lot of like, I will say, like, I didn't like, by 2005 I was very sick of Bush jokes. Like, I've noticed, like, because we had like that sort of break of Trump, the Trump humor has changed between terms, and you couldn't really do the Trump stuff you did last time now. But like, I think I was just so sick of commenting on Bush and everything like that at that point. And some of it, like all the Osama bin Laden jokes in this, which they do a lot, were just way too much and are not, even now, are not funny. Although him saying like he bought a pencil that goes up Osama bin Laden's butt, and he talks how he spent $40 on it, which adjusted for inflation is actually funnier because he was an idiot who spent too much. And there's a joke where they have God calling George Bush to minimize him saying that God picked him and stuff because he didn't want to be associated with George Bush. It was kind of funny. There was a joke where Steve, his son, becomes like student council president, and he makes sure that all periods, they're not called periods like school periods, they're called Steves. And they have this bit where he's like, "I'll meet you after third Steve," and it goes sentence on a Steve, and this girl goes like, "Sir, can I go to the bathroom? I'm having my Steve." That was decent. I think this is funnier than you expect, but and I think it has more going for it than just the conservative shitting on things, which now doesn't feel as crazy and extreme and like, you know, overbearing as it did then. Now I'm like, I mean, this is just like sort of how it is, unfortunately. But it went the other way. It went the way where like, oh, this is still the same. Cool. It did make me feel a little better about American Dad. It took me back to the place where I thought I understood why I just didn't want nothing to do with this fucking show when it premiered. I just thought it was like the worst thing. I think we were all too hard on it, and I think the break had this like reverse effect where like I watched Family Guy on Fox. Everyone I know who watched Family Guy when it originally aired on Fox like did not like it when it came back, and I think maybe it had been like we're all young. I would think it was in high school when Family Guy came out, and it was like finishing college when this came out. And it's like, in terms of like taste change, is a major shift. But I do think we were all too harsh on it. I think this is a decent show. I'm a little more open to watching more of it. I'm not gonna, but everyone tells me it gets better. Maybe it does. I did like the whole like Roger thing sort of, but like I don't know. I think at the time it just wasn't the right thing to lead with. It's interesting, much like the pilot of Family Guy, this was also a post Super Bowl thing. But it sort of came around. I think we were all a little too harsh on American Dad. I still think it has the embarrassing Bush stuff. For the most part, a lot of it just, I don't necessarily think they're amazing jokes or anything, but seeing how conservatives are now versus then, it doesn't feel as like extreme as it used to. I think we were all too hard on it. It made me rethink about American Dad, and maybe appreciate it a little more when I go back and watch it for the first time in 20 years.